All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
AI scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just mean AI doing science. I mean AI being the scientist.
Pretty crazy concept, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're so used to thinking about AI as like a tool,
Yeah.
something that helps us do stuff. But this research paper towards an AI co-scientist,
Yeah.
it suggests that AI could actually be like a full-blown collaborator in scientific discovery.
And it's not just like theoretical. This paper is talking about real-world breakthroughs that this AI co-scientist is already making. But before we get into all that, I got to ask,
Sure.
what does an AI scientist even look like?
Well, imagine like a system that has read and understood, like every scientific paper ever written.
Okay.
It's not just storing facts. It's like understanding the connections between them, the logic of how science works.
Okay, so it's brainy.
Yeah.
But how does it actually do science? Like come up with experiments and stuff?
So that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They built this thing as a multi-agent system, which is kind of like having a whole team of AI specialists all working together.
Hold on, AI specialists. Break that down for me.
Okay, so picture that you've got a room full of scientists, but like each one is an AI program.
Right.
Some of them are amazing at generating hypotheses. Some are pros at analyzing data. Some are like experts at poking holes in theories.
So they're like arguing with each other, basically, trying to come up with the best ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And get this, they even use an ELO rating system to rank the hypotheses.
What, like in chess?
Yeah, exactly like in chess. So the hypotheses that hold up the best, they kind of win, and then they get refined even further, while the weaker ideas, they kind of get tossed out.
So it's like survival of the fittest, but for scientific ideas.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And throughout this whole process, human scientists can actually like jump in and give their own feedback.
Oh, wow.
And kind of guide the AI. So it's like a truly collaborative process.
Okay, so we've got this brainy AI. It's debating ideas. It's ranking them.
Yeah.
But does it actually work in the real world? Like, has it found anything new?
So that's the exciting part.
Okay.
It has. And in some pretty unexpected areas.
Okay.
Let's start with drug repurposing.
Okay.
So this AI co-scientist figured out how to repurpose existing drugs to treat acute myeloid leukemia.
AML.
Yeah, or AML.
That's huge.
Yeah.
AML is like notoriously difficult to treat, so any new leads are valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
What's the story there?
So the AI basically dug through mountains of data on existing drugs and all their properties.
Okay.
And it wasn't just looking for drugs that already treated AML. It was looking for drugs that might work through a totally different mechanism.
Oh, so like a connection we hadn't seen before.
Exactly. It's like finding a hidden talent in someone you already know.
Okay. I like that.
And one of the drugs it identified was called Chiari-6, and it had like absolutely no prior connection to AML treatment.
What? So how did the AI even make that leap?
So Chiari-6 was actually developed for a completely different purpose. But the AI was able to analyze its molecular structure and properties, and it saw potential for targeting specific pathways that are involved in AML.
Wait, so it's like the AI saw a blueprint and was like, hey, I bet I can use these parts for something totally different.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And the crazy thing is when researchers actually tested Chiari-6 in the lab,
Yeah.
it showed some really promising results against AML cells.
That's wild. So we've got an AI that's basically playing a molecular Lego and coming up with new treatments.
Right.
What else has it found?
Okay, so let's move on to liver fibrosis.
Okay.
This is a condition with like very limited treatment options.
Yeah.
Where scar tissue builds up in the liver.
Okay, another tough one. How did the AI contribute to this?
So in this case, it helped researchers identify new treatment targets.
Okay.
So again, it went through mountains of data, but this time it was focusing on the molecular pathways involved in liver fibrosis.
Got it. So instead of finding a new drug, it's finding the weak spot in the disease itself.
Yeah, exactly. So the AI pinpointed these things called epigenetic modifiers.
Okay.
And they found that when they targeted these modifiers, they saw significant anti-fibrotic activity in lab-grown human liver tissue.
Okay, I'm sensing a pattern here. This AI, it's like a master detective finding clues and connections that we humans might just totally miss.
Yeah, it's really good at seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
And that brings us to probably the most mind-blowing example.
Okay, hit me.
It's work on antimicrobial resistance.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Huge.
Antibiotic resistance is like a massive threat, and we're running out of effective treatments.
Absolutely.
What did the AI co-scientist uncover?
Okay, so prepare yourself because this one is wild.
Okay.
The AI was tasked with analyzing data on bacterial genomes and the spread of antibiotic resistance genes.
So basically trying to understand how bacteria are evolving and sharing these resistance traits.
Yeah, like cracking the code of how bacteria are becoming supervillains.
I like.
And get this. The AI independently proposed a hypothesis about a specific mechanism of gene transfer.
So it's not just identifying patterns, it's coming up with entirely new theories about how this resistance works.
Exactly. But here's the kicker.
Okay.
A team of human scientists had actually been working on this same problem for years.
Yeah, way.
And they hadn't published their findings yet.
Okay.
But guess what?
Let me guess that the AI's hypothesis was like basically the same as what the human scientists had discovered.
You got it. It's like the AI independently made the same groundbreaking discovery as like a leading team of researchers.
That is absolutely mind-blowing. It really makes you wonder, like, what are the limits of what this AI co-scientist can do? But before we get too carried away, I think it's important to talk about the potential downsides. I mean, this technology is powerful, but it's got to have some limitations, right?
Absolutely. And the researchers behind this work are very open about those limitations.
Okay.
In fact, they highlight some key challenges that need to be addressed.
Well, let's dive into those in the next part of our deep dive. Okay, so we left off talking about some of the limitations of the AI co-scientist.
Yeah, for sure.
It can do all these incredible things.
Right.
But like with any new technology, there's got to be some downsides, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that the researchers point out
is
that the AI, like as brilliant as it is, it's still really reliant on the information that it's been fed.
Yeah.
And right now, that's mostly published research.
Okay, so it's kind of like no matter how smart a student is, if they only ever read textbooks, they're going to miss out on some real-world experience.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
There's a whole world of like unpublished data, failed experiments, anecdotal stuff that scientists learn from. And the AI isn't really tapping into that yet.
So it's like the AI is a great student, but maybe a bit sheltered. Like it hasn't had the chance to really get its hands dirty in the lab.
Exactly. And that's something that the researchers acknowledge needs to change. The next step is figuring out how to incorporate those less formal sources of knowledge into the AI's learning process.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, think about how much we learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
The AI needs to be able to do the same thing.
Right.
But let's shift gears a bit. Before the break, we were talking about some of the amazing discoveries this AI co-scientist has already made.
Right.
Can we, unpack those a bit more?
Absolutely. Let's go back to that drug repurposing example with AML.
Okay.
Remember the AI identified KIRA6?
Yeah.
A drug that had no previous connection to AML treatment?
Yeah, that was wild. But I'm still a little fuzzy on why that's such a big deal.
Okay.
I mean, sure, finding a new use for an old drug is great.
Yeah.
But what makes this particular discovery so significant?
It's not just that KIRA6 was repurposed. It's how the AI made that connection.
Okay.
It analyzed the drug's molecular structure and properties, and it saw this potential for targeting specific pathways that are involved in AML. Pathways that scientists hadn't even considered before.
Oh, so it's not just a random lucky guess.
Right.
The AI is actually understanding the underlying mechanisms of the disease.
Exactly.
And how the drug might interact with them.
Exactly. It's like the AI saw a set of tools and realized, hey, these could be used to fix this problem in a whole new way.
Yeah.
And it's really challenging our assumptions about how we approach drug discovery.
That's really cool. It makes you wonder how many other drugs are out there with hidden potential just waiting for an AI to come along and connect the dots.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the liver fibrosis example? What made the AI's contribution there so special?
Okay, so in that case, it wasn't about finding a new drug.
Yeah.
It was about identifying new targets for drug development.
Okay.
So remember, the AI pinpointed these specific epigenetic modifiers that are involved in liver fibrosis.
Right, but why is that so groundbreaking? There are lots of ways to identify potential drug targets, right?
There are, but the AI did something really unique here. It identified targets that were not only relevant to the disease process, but also druggable.
Okay.
Meaning that they are molecules or pathways that could actually be targeted with existing or future drugs.
So it's not just throwing out random possibilities.
Right.
The AI is giving researchers a short list of targets that have a high chance of actually leading to new treatments.
That's exactly right.
That saves a ton of time and resources.
Exactly. And that's a key aspect of why this AI co-scientist is so valuable.
Yeah.
It's not just about generating ideas. It's about generating good ideas.
Okay.
Ideas that are likely to be fruitful and lead to real progress.
Okay. I'm really starting to see the potential here.
Yeah.
But before we move on,
Sure.
I got to revisit that antimicrobial resistance example.
Yeah.
It's still blowing my mind that the AI independently came up with this hypothesis that matched the unpublished findings of a team of human scientists.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Can you tell me more about how the AI made that discovery?
Sure. So the AI was fed a massive amount of data on bacterial genomes and the spread of antibiotic resistance genes.
Yeah.
And its task was to analyze all this data and try to understand the mechanisms by which bacteria share these resistance traits.
So it's like playing a giant game of genetic detective trying to track how these resistance genes are being passed around.
Yeah, exactly. And what's fascinating is that the AI didn't just identify patterns in the data.
Yeah.
It actually came up with like a new theoretical framework.
Wow.
For understanding gene transfer.
Okay.
It proposed a specific mechanism that had never been described before.
Wow. So it's not just a data cruncher. It's actually capable of building new scientific theories.
Right.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And the fact that this theory independently matched the unpublished findings of a team of human experts really speaks to the power of this AI co-scientist. It's not just replicating what we already know. It's actually pushing the boundaries of scientific understanding.
Okay. I'm convinced this AI co-scientist is the real deal.
It's pretty amazing.
But I still have some questions about the practical side of things. Like, how are scientists actually using this AI in their research?
Yeah.
Is it like a standalone tool, or is it more integrated into their workflow?
That's a great question, and it's something that we'll definitely delve into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore how this AI co-scientist is being used in real-world research settings.
Yeah.
The challenges and opportunities it presents, and what it all means for the future of scientific discovery.
Okay, so we've seen what this AI co-scientist can do, finding new drugs, uncovering new targets, even predicting how bacteria evolve.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
It's not just a fancy calculator. It's like changing how we do science.
It really is. And what's great is that the researchers are being really upfront about the limitations.
Yeah.
They're talking about the challenges.
Yeah, because with great power comes great, the same.
Right, exactly.
But before we get too philosophical, what are some of the specific, hurdles that they're talking about?
Well, one thing we talked about before is that the AI is kind of limited by its diet.
Okay.
Right now, it's mostly feeding on published research. Which is good, but there's a whole world of data that it's missing.
Yeah, like all those failed experiments, the negative results.
Exactly.
The stuff that doesn't actually make it into journals.
Right, because scientists learn a lot from what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Just as much as what does.
Yeah.
So figuring out how to incorporate that kind of knowledge into the AI's training, that's a big challenge.
It's like the AI has read all the cookbooks.
Yeah.
But it hasn't actually gotten in the kitchen and gotten its hands dirty.
Exactly. And that's something they're working on.
Okay.
They're exploring ways to pull in data from lab notebooks, conference presentations, even informal discussions between scientists.
It's a lot of information.
It is. It's a messy world of information, but that's where the real learning happens.
That's kind of like if you only ever study perfect grammar. You're never going to really understand how language works in the real world with all its slang and,
Exactly. And speaking of real world language, another challenge is making sure that the AI's insights are actually understandable to humans.
Okay.
Right now, it can generate hypotheses, suggest research directions, but it's not always clear how it got there.
So it's like getting an amazing answer from a magic 8-ball,
right?
But having no idea how it works.
Exactly.
That's going to be frustrating.
It's not enough for the AI to be right. It needs to be able to explain its reasoning in a way that makes sense to us.
Yeah, transparency is key.
Absolutely. It's key for building trust and making sure the AI is used responsibly.
I guess that's true for any collaboration, really.
Yeah.
Whether it's human or AI, you got to understand each other's thought process if you're going to work together effectively.
Exactly.
So what are the researchers doing to make this AI co-scientist more transparent?
Well, they're developing ways to visualize the AI's decision-making process, kind of like creating a map of how it connects different pieces of information. And they're also working on translating the AI's output into something that's more human readable.
Yeah.
Almost like giving it the ability to explain its logic, in plain English.
So it's like giving the magic 8-ball a voice.
Yeah.
So it can be like, hey, I noticed this pattern, and based on this other research, I think this might be worth exploring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that transparency is really crucial, not just for trust, but also for making sure that the AI isn't perpetuating any biases.
Right.
that might exist in the data it's been trained on.
Yeah, because even if the AI itself is unbiased, the data it learns from might not be.
Exactly. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
It's like teaching someone to cook from a cookbook that only includes recipes from one culture.
Right. They'll miss out on a whole world of flavors.
Exactly. So part of making this AI a reliable partner is ensuring it has access to a diverse and balanced set of data.
Okay.
And that we're constantly checking for and mitigating any potential biases.
So it's like a constant work in progress.
It is.
This AI co-scientist is powerful, but it's not like a magic solution.
Right.
It needs guidance. It needs refinement, and it needs a lot of collaboration with us humans.
Yeah, that's a really key takeaway.
Yeah.
The future of science isn't about AI replacing scientists.
Right.
It's about this partnership. Combining the best of human intuition and creativity with the AI's ability to process information at a scale that we could never do on our own.
It's kind of like, imagine if Sherlock Holmes had access to Google.
Right.
You'd have this incredible detective mind amplified by this like almost infinite pool of knowledge.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And that's the kind of excitement that this research is generating.
Yeah.
It's not just about incremental improvements. It's about fundamentally changing how we do science. Unlocking new possibilities we can only begin to imagine.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's like the one thing you want our listener to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that we're on the cusp of a scientific revolution. The AI co-scientist, even in these early stages, is showing us that it can accelerate discovery, generate new knowledge, and ultimately help us solve some of the biggest challenges facing humanity.
It's a future full of promise and a little bit of awe, as we learn to work alongside these incredibly powerful AI partners.
It's pretty amazing.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about, and who knows what amazing breakthroughs are just around the corner. One thing's for sure, the future of science is going to be anything but boring.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep those brains curious.